Everybody get up. It's time to slam now. We got a real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam, and welcome to the Backlot 605 podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Casey Calderman. Joined with me, as always, is the Bill Murray to my Michael Jordan, Brian Mensing, coming in to save the day.
I think I will take that compliment. The Bill Murray to your Michael Jordan. I can take that. Also, that was probably the closest to like a William Shatner intro that I think you could have. Taking the lyrics to a song and just speaking them out.
Speaking them. I don't know if I don't take that as a compliment though. Being compared to William Shatner at all. Then
you have never heard William Shatner's music albums.
I don't need to. I don't ever want to.
They're fantastically bad.
So is he as an actor. But no, who is not fantastically bad? He is fantastically great. It is our special guest this week, Sam, the Space Jammed Lens.
What's up, guys?
Sam,
I'm so stoked to be talking Looney Tunes with you.
If you haven't had enough Sam in your ear holes over the last week, well, you're going to get him again here. I mean, Sam has been all over Backlot in the last week. I mean, we
in the same damn hat, too.
In the same hat for probably all three appearances in his last couple weeks on the show. First, we had our latest Slashlat episode, shameless plug. And then also our live show counting down the greatest Pixar movies of all time, which Sam hosted. And now today back for Space Jam, Jamity Jam.
It's been a busy week. I love it.
It has been. So, Sam, we're going to do Space Jam this week because we're kicking off what we like to call the animation live-action hybrid series. That is the biggest mouthful of words we're ever going to have for a movie series ever. We go from just straight-up Pride movies to animation live-action hybrid movie series.
Yes.
Because we all want to see Mr. LeBron King James team up with Bugs Bunny here this next week, actually, if I'm not mistaken, is when the New Legacy or 16. So we got 2 weeks before we witness that cinematic greatness happening on the big screen and on HBO Max as well. But we're going to kick it off with Space Jam this week, which should be fun. I think we all have probably similar thoughts, but maybe different grades for this movie. I don't know.
It's the godfather of children's cinema, but okay.
I do know that when I brought up bringing up these movies, immediately Sam is like, I'm doing Space Jam. We hadn't even talked about what movies we're going to do on the series, and Sam
he's like
I'm doing Space Jam.
Space Jam's his go-to. I get it.
Yeah, it really is. I love this movie. I have since I was a very young kid. Wore out my VHS.
Because you were a young kid when it came out.
Yeah. I'm really excited to be talking about this.
3 or 4 when this movie came out?
96.
Yeah, came out in 96, so I would have been 3, which means I probably didn't get a VHS until I was about 4, and then I probably didn't ever stop watching that VHS until it finally wore out at maybe like 12.
I'm over here like, let me just go grab my walker.
I had we'll get into it in a few minutes. I had a similar experience as Sam does to this movie. Yeah. This is a seminal childhood classic right here that is as Sam said, the godfather of children's cinema. I'm only hoping that Space Jam: A New Legacy can be the Godfather Part 2 of children's cinema.
Ooh.
We will wait for that to happen. I don't know if it will, but we'll see.
It will if it follows specific rules that I have, and we'll get into that later.
All right. But before we get into that, let's jump into the box office, the news, all of that fun stuff. We're going to kick it off with the box office here from this past 4-day weekend. Happy late 4th of July to everybody out there. Hope you all did not burn down your house or any grass by your house, because that's just been South Dakota the last week. But hopefully
we're dry.
The only explosions you should have had are on the big screen with Fast 9, the Fast Saga F9, $30 million, number 1 at the box office once again. Because you know what, 4th of July is all about one thing, Brian. It's about family.
It's all about the family.
So Sam, have you had a chance to watch
I have
F9
not
yet?
had the chance to get out to the theaters to see this yet. I love this series and all of its ridiculous nonsense titles. I love how they just change it too. Like it was Hobbs and Shaw, and then it was Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, and then they changed it back to Hobbs and Shaw, and then they changed it back to whatever, and now this, like, it started off as F9, and now it's F9 the Fast Saga, and pretty soon it's going to be Furious 9 the Fast whatever. I don't know. Like, these movies are ridiculous, and I love them, so I'm very excited to finally check this one out. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I want to hopefully get to a point when you do get a chance to see it, because I want to see where you lie between what seems like not knowing exactly Casey's thoughts, but I know that they're not the same as mine. So I have a feeling you're going to be like somewhere in between.
Yeah, I mean, man, I love Justin Lin's work in this franchise, so I was really excited that he took the reins back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I didn't love Hobbs and Shaw, weirdly enough. Like,
You can
Statham
blame
and
Deadpool director
Johnson
for that,
are,
though.
yeah. I don't know. Statham and Johnson are like two of my favorite actors, and they're two of my favorite characters in this franchise. But that movie just kind of fell flat for me, and maybe that's why I haven't gone out to F9 yet, because that movie left me kind of like, well, I'll see it when I see it, you know?
That's how I have still felt about Hobbs and Shaw. I've not watched it yet. It's I'll see it when I see it type of movie. I went out to the theater for Fast 9, Furious 9, Fast and Furious 9th movie film, whatever they want to call it. Yeah, me and Brian will talk about it in our Patreon bonus episode, but all I will say, and I will leave it at this and leave it as a tease for that, where you have to sign up on our Patreon, patreon.com/backlot605 to hear my full thoughts on this movie. This is the dumbest movie I've ever seen. And that's all I will say. That's all I will say about F9, the Fast Saga.
So go see the ridiculousness.
Go subscribe to our Patreon to hear my thoughts, if that's good or bad. Another movie sure to be the dumbest movie I would ever see if I ever actually watched this movie. The Boss Baby Family Business, $20 million here on the 4-day weekend. I forgot they made a sequel. I forgot it was even getting released. Good for Alec Baldwin.
I'm not gonna lie, until I saw Derek's review on it on Facebook, I was like when I saw his review, I was like, wait, that came out already? I knew it was coming. I just didn't know. I didn't know it was already here.
Yeah, July 2nd.
Yeah.
The movie everybody was waiting for. This is what we suffered through a pandemic for, so that we could come out on the other end and get a new Boss Baby movie.
I can at least say this much, for as someone in this trio of individuals who has seen this movie, I'm so glad they released it on Peacock.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they dual released it in the theater. So Derek paid money to go see this in the theater. I watched it at home.
I wouldn't even re-up my subscription to a free Peacock for this movie.
Yeah.
This is the first movie is horrible. Peacock is the worst movie app out there. Peacock is horrible. Please, Peacock, if you do want to give us money, we will take it, though. But you are the worst app out there for movies right now. But Sam, have you watched The Boss? The Boss Baby seems like a Sam Lenz movie, though.
I've watched the first one a couple times. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't make a lick of sense. It's all over the place. I can't say that I don't admire its commitment to just absolute insanity, if that makes sense. Like, I watch it and I kind of get a chuckle out of it just because of how ridiculous it is. And I feel like this one, from what I saw in the trailer, is going to be very much upping that ante. So yeah, I'll definitely end up seeing this at some point. I will say I enjoy Jeff Goldblum as the villain. Yeah, and that was my selling point. I didn't even know Jeff Goldblum was in it until today. And I was like, oh my God, Jeff Goldblum voices the villain in this? Like, that alone will get my butt in a seat and watching it, like, honestly. I like.
The next one up here, Sam. This should fall into both of our all-timer genre categories, which is the Forever Purge, which I don't know if you have seen this either. $15.66 million. Are you a fan of this series?
Yes,
I've only seen the first movie, which by all accounts I have heard from people who have watched now all 5 movies now.
This is the 5th one, yeah.
This is the 5th one. That's the worst one, and it just, I don't know, it didn't get me engrossed to watch the other ones. Again, it's one of those things where I'll have to just binge this series at some point. Maybe if this is in fact the last one, now would be the time to do it. But I don't know. The concept has never. It just didn't live up to me, to my expectations for the first one, and I fell off right after that.
Yeah, the first one's weird because it feels like it's a bottle episode of a larger TV series, and it promises this, all crime is legal for 12 hours, and then it sticks you in a family home where you don't really see the full ramifications of the purge. And that was my biggest issue with it, was just like, it felt, for like the cool premise of it, it just felt like a run-of-the-mill home invasion flick. But then the second one brings in Frank Grillo, who's one of my favorite B-movie action stars right now. And it cranks up the action. It goes wider. It goes on a bigger scale. And I really liked both Anarchy and Election Year. The first Purge, not quite as much. It was fun, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was as wild of a ride as Anarchy.
It should have been for that, or should have been for that premise.
Yeah, exactly. So, but honestly, the trailers to this one sold me. I will end up seeing it. I just haven't been to the theater in a couple weeks, and I probably should fix that soon. But I haven't had the time to get out and do it. So.
But the last thing you saw in the theater was what, Aliens?
No, I saw Midsommar.
Oh, okay.
And I think that was the last movie I saw. And even before that, I think before that, it was the Aliens double feature.
I feel you, Sam, with the summer movie season, like actually being here this year. It's like, it's kind of sideswiped me of like, oh my God, I'm missing all these movies now because I'm not at the theater every weekend.
Yep.
Well, and it sucks as a horror fan too, because we're getting new genre releases almost weekly, and I feel like I'm not seeing any of them. It's it's driving me nuts. But between all this stuff on streaming and I haven't made it out to the theater. There's just been home releases that I felt more drawn to than some of these big theatrical ones.
The next one on our list is one that I've just been kicking myself in the ass for not getting out to the theater to watch yet. But before I want to get Brian's thoughts. Have you watched this new Purge movie? Are you a fan of the Purge series?
Yes, I am. I have watched all of them. The only thing I have not watched of the Purge is I've never finished the series that they put on. What is it? USA?
Yeah.
Is it USA or FX? I don't remember.
I think it's USA.
I think it was USA, because I was going to say, if it would have been FX, it would have been better. No.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of that and wasn't super into it.
I would say this is the fact that if there's one thing that this movie definitely solidifies for me, is Josh Lucas is not capable of anything other than his Southern accent. Like, he cannot hide this thing for you. So it's like, we need somebody to play a cowboy. Get the guy that does the Home Depot commercials.
So you're saying he peaked with Sweet Home Alabama?
No. Hey, that's a good movie. Shut it.
I love
Home Sweet Alabama.
I was gonna say you're not gonna get any hate for Sweet Home Alabama in this podcast.
Not at all. I love that movie. That's the last thing that I saw Josh Lucas in, where I was like, hey, Josh Lucas is pretty good at this.
Go back and watch him in American Psycho.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that.
Right? Just like, oh yeah, there's Jared Leto too. No, this is one of those ones. The one thing I really appreciate about the Purge movies is in regards to the political and social, there is no subtext. It's literally on the top of the, on top of it. It's blatant. It's written out there. And this one
it's
is
just
no
text.
Different. It's just straight. Exactly. There's no subtext.
Mm-hmm.
And this one basically is the idea. When we're running into like immigration and basically whites, the white saying that I'm going to take my land back, everything like that. And then now we run within the story about the fact that all these Americans are looking to find salvage by going to Mexico.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
in terms of the franchise as a whole, I would say it's probably for me middle-ish, maybe middle, because I agree with you. I think the first Purge is one of those ones where the talent was there, the premise was definitely there. I just don't think it was executed where it should have been.
Yeah.
And I kind of think this is where this one kind of lies, because it is that kind of thing. Like just as I was walking back in, all I hear you is talking about Frank Grillo. There's something about the weird chemistry that is Frank Grillo that makes you want to like those specific Purge movies.
Yeah,
where
he carries them.
Yeah, and I do think Josh Lucas definitely carries this one, but I don't think he carries it to that caliber.
Yeah.
So I think this one
he's just no Frank Grillo.
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
But Frank Grillo couldn't do Sweet Home Alabama either. We'll give Josh Lucas that credit.
Yes.
I will agree with that. I will agree with that.
So, but I mean, in terms of playing like the ranchers cowboy-ish type, because this takes place in Mexico, they try to make they're in like the El Paso area and whatnot. So I mean, for him, like even if this was a Frank Grillo movie and whatnot, it wouldn't work because he's definitely not have that Southern grit to him like Josh Lucas does.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I definitely think it's definitely worth the if you're a fan of the Purge movies, and enjoy those movies for what they are, and knowing the fact that there is no subtext, absolutely none. It is a good watch, but I definitely think that it's kind of on more on the lines of like the first Purge than the other ones.
Number 4, keeping in the horror genre, which is A Quiet Place Part 2, $5.22 million. Still kicking ass at the box office for the Krasinski-Emily Blunt duo back in the big screen.
The one that's
best movie of the year for my money. Best movie of the year.
Still the one in the box office. I'm kicking myself in the ass for not seeing yet.
I poke fun at you every week being the horror guy, and there's 2 out of the 3 people here, and at least one of the horror guys is seen this movie at least.
I will remedy that before it does leave the theater.
And honestly, Casey, if you don't make it to the theater for this, we're watching it in my theater room at least. You got to see this thing on the biggest screen possible. It is incredible.
We're doing a double feature, Sam.
That's how I felt about
that's
how I felt about the first movie of watching that in the theater. Like it was one of those experiences that's like, yeah, this is what movie theaters are made for.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
A movie that movie theaters probably aren't made for is The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. $3.9 million for this movie that will be forgotten in T-minus 2 months.
You say that it wasn't made for theaters, but we're not talking about Cruella anymore.
We are not talking about Cruella. Cruella has also been out for a month and a half, but
this movie is also incredible. I will say that.
I have heard great things about Cruella. This one I have not heard anything.
Cruella.
I've not heard anything about because no one has seen it. I don't know. I will just shit on this movie just because for forever and ever because Ryan Reynolds, he is not my favorite actor.
Fair. I like the first one. It's not great, but it gave me a few laughs. It doesn't really hold up on rewatch. I tried rewatching it before this one came out. I don't even know if I went through. I stopped caring about halfway through, and I started doing other things. And then before I knew it, the credits were rolled, and I hadn't watched like the entire second half of the movie. I will probably at some point see this one, but I'll probably wait and just rent it when it comes out on digital.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the box office for this week. Doing pretty well for the family atop the box office with Mr. Vin Diesel and crew. We'll probably drop to that number 2 spot, I would assume, with Black Widow coming out.
Oh my God, that's this Friday already, isn't it?
That is this week already.
That's Thursday for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But
dang.
let's jump into we just have one piece of news to talk about before we jump into Space Jam. It is a sad little piece of news that we do have to talk about that just dropped today as we are recording here on Monday. Brian, do you want to throw it off to the news?
I will, and I'm actually pulling up some stuff about it actually here as we speak. Yes, the unfortunate passing of an icon in his own right. Richard Donner had passed away at the age of 91. So yeah, this being, this is a hard one because I mean he's one who gave us so many iconic movies in terms of this is the man who gave us Superman. This is the man who gave us Lethal Weapon. This is the man that gave me my infamous Goonies that I love so much. That it is a sad day to see such, an individual, that you respect as a filmmaker. And I mean, just the stuff I've been seeing on Twitter today, or various social media for that matter, the amount of respect that he had in the industry because of the kind of person he was. This is truly one of those ones that it will be, a sad loss and something that will probably be felt, within the industry. Because actually, just as how I even came across this afternoon actually was a Kevin Smith tweet. Because he talked about how such an amazing, friendly individual person he was. Actually, Derek just shared with us here just a couple minutes ago here. One from Spielberg. There's one from Sean Astin. Basically, again, talking about how, much of a great big teddy bear he was.
Yeah, he's one of those names that truly, when you say the term defined a generation, he is one of those names that you can throw out there alongside
define multiple generations,
and continues to do so. I mean, him and Spielberg, I put up right next to each other as two of the biggest names of 70s, 80s, 90s cinema in terms of creating films that last truly generations. Because I mean, just last week the State Theater played to sold out crowds of the Goonies, and I'm sure there was a lot of families there as well, and probably taking their people who grew up on the Goonies are now taking their kids to watch this movie perhaps for the first time and leaving that legacy behind for them as well. So I mean, 91, that's quite a life to live, and obviously did pretty much everything you could do in the industry of film, and again left that lasting legacy. And he's also one of those directors that just could weave in and out of any type of genre in a way, because like Brian said, he did Superman the movie, which is for all intents and purposes the first real comic book movie that is kind of away
from the modern comic book movie. Yeah. He really did.
Yeah, and taking it out of that serialized version of comic book movies and really just bursting it onto the big screen and for that film. And then obviously he did, The Goonies, a family adventure style of movie, and then did Lethal Weapon, a buddy cop movie, and then he has The Omen as well, doing one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And so seamlessly weaves in and out of these genres. True master director. And to hear so many people saying he's also just genuinely one of the greatest human beings ever, I'm like, that makes you love the guy even more and his work even more. To see successful people be nice people be successful and live such a great life that Richard Donner did. He is truly a legend, and one that we'll continue to honor by watching the films that we love of his over and over and over.
Yeah, I'll even say this just because I still have it pulled up here. This is directly from Sean Astin. So you figure somebody who was literally, obviously part of Goonies, a kid that has to be directed by somebody, not only do you have to be a good storyteller, but you have to, if you're trying to direct kids, you have to be very good at being the people person to do so, And he says, Richard Donner had the biggest, boomest voice you could imagine. He commanded attention, and he laughed like no man had ever laughed before. Dick was so much fun. What I perceived in him as a 12-year-old kid is that he cared, and I love how much he cared. Goonies never say die. And I think that really does say a lot for somebody who, you figure all these child actors and whatnot, that some of these movies destroy them, because of the experience they had on these movies, and just the example of the type of person you should be on a film and whatnot to be, or when creating a film.
Yeah. Well, and I think like Casey was saying, I mean, this guy, was there a genre that he didn't massively succeed in? I mean, when I was looking through, like when the news first broke and I saw The Omen in his credits, I'd forgotten he even directed that, because like there are so many other movies that he did that are just stone cold classics, that somehow The Omen, which is indeed one of the greatest horror movies ever made, how does that slip past someone? Like, to me, I was instantly thinking Superman, Lethal Weapon, Goonies, and The Omen just never even occurred to me. Like, the guy just had hit after hit, and it just stands the test of time. And I mean, God, it's insane.
I've got a great one here that I never even realized till just now as I look up his IMDb page. One of the best Christmas movies ever made. No,
which is
Scrooge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
there's
exactly.
This guy, again, like,
mastering comedy as well, throwing that in there. I mean, even one that's not a good movie, which is Sylvester Stallone's Assassins, I find very charming in a way.
Yeah.
That he also did. So I mean, like, he has some underrated movies or underseen movies in there as well. But like
Timeline.
Like Sam said, with like, you're not thinking of The Omen as the first movie. It's probably like the fifth movie you think of. For any other person, they'd be lucky to make The Omen. This guy had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just multitudes of classics that still hold up 40, 50 years later.
Very much so.
So obviously a legend of the industry. Sad to see him go. Sad to see, as this continues, that generation of filmmakers slowly stopping making films and stuff. But I mean, their legacy is still left behind. Obviously, like I said, with the State Theater playing the Goonies this past weekend, like, these movies will continue to live on. I fully expect this. The Goonies is not going to be the last Richard Donner movie that the state's going to play even this year. So
no. They need to play Superman. Straight up 1978 Superman.
I'm fully expecting Superman to be on that list. Maybe even the Omen at some point. Maybe Lethal Weapon. Maybe even Assassins. I don't know. We'll see.
Here's out state. We need to just have a Richard Donner series.
A Richard Donner series. I think that would do incredibly well. Even
with
theme it for
Lethal Weapon 1 and 2 double feature.
Yeah, like theme it each month. Do one Donner movie. Have Scrooge kind of finish it off in December now. Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be fun.
Oh my God, I would love to see Scrooge in the theater during Christmas. That would be amazing.
Man, I will see any Richard Donner movie that the state decides to play. I am very upset that I missed Goonies this weekend. It just wasn't in the cards for me.
I will tell you, as somebody who looked at his schedule and says, "This is when I'm going," and that was the Saturday, the Saturday 11 o'clock in the morning and whatnot, completely almost sold out. I think it was sold out actually. I mean, yeah, that was, talk about reliving a childhood.
I almost canceled our Pixar countdown just so we could make sure we could all go this past weekend. Because I love the Goonies. I probably should have, according to what Sam Lenz believes on this list that we had. But nonetheless, I'm going to get into our segue into our main topic, because we talked about Scrooge. Who's the star of Scrooge? Bill Murray. Who's in this movie that we're talking about this week?
Dan Aykroyd.
Mr. Dan Aykroyd. How did he end up in this picture? He's a friend of one of the producers. But we're going to talk about Space Jam.
I do love that line, by the way.
I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture. It's like the best line in the whole movie. I love it.
Watching this as an adult is how I want to first start this. Bill Murray's the best part of this movie as an adult.
This is like easily that, that 90s Bill Murray where, he was still, having fun and still being the quirky Bill Murray was before he kind of went into old cadre Bill Murray. I feel like he is now, where like now he's more art theater kind of do what I want kind of stuff. This is still, having fun kind of Caddyshack style like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. I think he was Reitman asked him to be in it, and he showed up and pretty much did whatever he wanted, which is my favorite kind of Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And like, God, I know we're jumping ahead to the end already, or I am.
It's Space Jam. There's going to be spoilers abound if there is any spoilers for this movie.
The moment where you just hear him, da, 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 I just chills every time. Yeah. Like, I get so wrapped up in this movie, and that happens. I'm like, Bill Murray came to save the day. Like,
it's like Han Solo sweeping in to save Luke at the end of A New Hope. It's that exact same type of moment.
Yeah. It really is, and like, as someone who grew up with this movie, it actually affects me the same way.
Oh, especially this scene directly behind me. He just starts going into power mode. This is what we're gonna do. We're on defense.
Girl bunny, you're gonna pass it to boy bunny.
I don't play defense.
I don't do defense. That's on you. Talk to this guy.
Yeah. Oh man, it was funny.
Even his interactions with Larry Bird when they're playing golf, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna put us both down for a 2. We had a lot going on.
No emotional state to putt.
No emotional state to putt.
I know. So funny enough, today when I watched it, just so it was fresh in my mind for this, even though I watched it like 5 or 6 days ago, Maria has never seen this all the way through. She's always either fallen asleep or whatever. She never watched it as a kid. So we're like getting close to the end of the game, and she's just going like, "What? This is so crazy!" And I'm like, "Oh, trust me. It gets crazier." We hadn't even gotten to the part where, Stan gets like blown up into a big balloon. We hadn't gotten to Bill Murray, like any of that, Michael Jordan's stretch. Like, I was like, trust me, it gets so much better. And the Bill Murray moment happened. She goes, "What?" Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Space Jam. Yeah, this movie, I'm going to say it right here at the top, and I put it on my Letterboxd. This movie is an all-time masterpiece. It is a 5-star movie. It is one of the greatest movies of all time, and that is purely nostalgia saying all of those words that I just said. Yes. Because this movie is it good? No. Is the acting good? No. Is the animation good? No. But is it a masterpiece? Yes, it is.
It's one of those kind of things like when you go to the museum, you look at a piece of art really up close and it just looks ugly, but as soon as you pull away from it, the sum of its parts is what makes it great.
I was going to say, if you went into a museum and they just had one 90s movie there, it would be Space Jam.
Well, it is. It's a total snapshot of what was going on at that time. Like it's revitalizing the Looney Tunes. Michael Jordan had just done the whole baseball thing and come back to the Bulls. I mean, like, it's a snapshot in time that somehow perfectly merges 2 huge icons in pop culture and does it pretty in my opinion, does it really successfully, honestly. Yeah, is some of the animation janky? Yeah, can Michael Jordan, like, is he an actor? No. But good God, like, the entertainment value of this movie alone, like, it's no wonder kids like us, like, grew up on this movie because, good God, like, I watch it now and I still giggle the entire way through it. It's insane. Like, this movie,
not as a child, you're giggling through it because you think it's funny because it's Bugs Bunny and Tweety Bird and all that. Yeah. As an adult, you're kind of giggling at those things too, but now you're also giggling at like, oh wow, that was bad, or that was horrible, or that was. But at the same time too, you're still laughing.
Did they just put a Pulp Fiction reference in the kids'
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I watch this and I look in terms of like the supporting cast and whatnot. And like there's a lot, we kind of poke fun at the fact that Michael Jordan's not a great actor. But when you look at all the other basketball players that are in this movie, he's not the worst one.
No. Oh, Definitely not.
He's definitely not the worst one.
Sorry, Larry Bird, you are the worst one.
No, you know what? The part that's funny though, but like because Sam made reference to the golf cart scene when him and Bill Murray are walking off and whatnot. That scene works. That chemistry works. Whereas like some of the other parts when we get like Patrick Ewing and like Muggsy Bogues when there's the 5 of them together, all of that, especially like at the very end or whatever, that's bad. Like those guys, it's like they showed up for like the 3 scenes over like course like a couple of days and just couldn't do it.
I don't know. I find all 5 of them endlessly entertaining in this movie, partially because they are not actors and are okay. So what's this movie?
I'll say it.
They're all trying. They're all trying. I love Charles Barkley very, very much. I love Charles Barkley. I love when they're in like going to therapy and stuff to try to figure out why they're not performing.
Are you unable to perform in other areas?
In a kids movie, we make a sex joke.
Yeah. But watching this movie this time, I was just again watching this now after last year's The Last Dance and hearing how some of the things about Michael Jordan we might not have known back then, and just how big he actually is, obviously in real life, especially in 1996. He is the most famous person in the world at this point.
The dude is still an icon too.
The dude is today. He still absolutely is. But in '96, I mean, he's the biggest person in the world. There's no one bigger than Michael Jordan. And to have his friends and competitors that are in the NBA basically play second fiddle to him completely in this movie, where like this movie is about Michael Jordan beating 5 of the best basketball players by himself. That is what this movie is about. That's the plot of the movie. Michael Jordan beats 5 of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Hey, Lola helped a lot.
Lola and Bill Murray and Bugs helped a little, but it surprised me how
skill, Casey.
She does have skill. And helped me mature into the man that I am today. That's kind of where I want to start with this movie. Let's go back to 96. Let's go back to our first time watching this, because obviously for all 3 of us, there is a nostalgic value to Space Jam.
More nostalgia for you than it is going to be for me, because 96, I'm already, and almost an adult, in terms of teenager. I'm a junior in high school. You guys are just babies at this point. So, but at the same time too, I do still feel that nostalgia. It's still one, for the sake of 96. It's still a movie that I still hold dear. I think partially because of the Michael Jordan movement, because I literally grew up through that, between the whole Bulls, him leaving to go to baseball and coming back and all that stuff. The music that comes along with this as well. So do you guys have the nostalgia because of the Looney Tunes side of it, or where is it that the nostalgia really builds for you guys?
The nostalgia for me, based on anything from Michael Jordan or the Looney Tunes, is because of Space Jam. It stems from Space Jam and branches out to Jordan Looney Tunes, because I honestly can't remember if I watched very many Looney Tunes as a kid. So this might have been my first introduction to them in Space Jam. And then Jordan was, by the time I could have any memories as a kid, was already on his way out, but still super popular, because I vividly remember as a kid, I had a Michael Jordan jersey. I had a Bulls jersey. I also had a Space Jam jersey as well. And like this movie was just ingrained into my childhood, of the VHS tape, having the merchandise from the movie, having this soundtrack from the movie, the motion picture soundtrack, and having the Jock Jam soundtrack as well, that is very much intertwined into Space Jam music as well. Like those were just like childhood songs right there. So this movie has just a vivid place in my very early years of my life of loving pop culture stuff, because this was kind of my introduction to 2 very large icons of pop culture, with Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes.
Yeah. I would definitely say this is probably where my love for those started, just because it came out when I was so young. But like growing up, I was a Looney Tunes fanatic. Taz was my favorite. Absolutely loved Taz. I still at my parents' place. I actually texted my mom. So I was doing the artwork for this episode yesterday. I started, and I was Googling pictures of Taz because he's my favorite Looney Tune. He's the best. And I came across an ad for this like vintage shop where it was a Taz plush with the Space Jam uniform, and I had that exact Taz plush. I remember growing up with it. Like literally, this thing went to bed with me every night. And I'm pretty sure I had Bugs, I had Daffy, I had just anything Space Jam or Looney Tunes. Like that was what was in my room. I mean, my room was almost entirely Looney Tunes growing up. And I texted my mom to make sure that she still has. She's like, "Yeah, it's in a tote in our garage." I'm like, "I'm gonna come by and get that because like I need Taz." It just like it hit me with so much emotion at that point. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like all these floodgates are opening back up from my childhood. I remember like a year after this one came out, they also released on VHS the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie, which is essentially Bugs Bunny, Hugh Hefnering it in his 24-carat mansion and taking you through the history of Looney Tunes and showing you different, like it's like a best of the Looney Tunes shorts. Mm-hmm. And I watched the hell out of that. And I would have it right behind me on the shelf, except for right after I watched Space Jam today, I took it out and it's still in my living room. It's still in my VCR because I watched it immediately afterwards. Yeah, man, like Looney Tunes for me was just, that was the end all be all. And I also grew up in a Chicago Bulls household. Like my grandparents loved the Chicago Bulls. My dad loved the Chicago Bulls. I grew up watching MJ play basketball. And so, you know, my favorite game of his is still the Toon Squad game. It's his best game. I stand by that. And yeah, you know, I don't think my parents liked this movie at all, but they watched it a lot because I had it on all the time, you know. The minute the news was over, that was what I was popping on.
Yeah. This is one of those movies. Every time I watch it, like nostalgia just floods over me. Like for me, watching it this time is the scene where Bugs and Daffy are stealing, or going into Michael Jordan's house to get his shorts and his shoes.
I found the shorts.
Just that scene of like how it's shot, like reminded me of sitting in my parents' living room as a kid, watching this on the tube TV, watching Space Jam for the umpteenth time, probably in a row for that day, probably watching it for the fifth time in a row. But yeah, I don't know. Just this movie has perhaps some of the most nostalgic memories for me of childhood in this movie. I mean, I can maybe throw out like maybe Wayne's World has some of that nostalgic value for me as well, or even like watching Phantom Menace and the Star Wars movies as a kid has that as well. But I mean, Space Jam is right up there with those as those childhood classics. I don't know what that says about Sam and I, of these being the childhood classics that we have of Space Jam as a kid, where everybody else in the 80s had like the Goonies, but we had Space Jam, and we turned out all right.
It was, for me, I mean, it was Lion King, it was Space Jam, it was the Phantom Menace, and then it was the live action Scooby-Doo. Those are like, and Toy Story. Yeah. Those movies were like, those were my like constant rotation. You know, I just, but this one was, I mean, this one might have been the one that I watched the most out of all of those. Yeah. And it's the one that I watched the most today, to be honest.
Well, it's because you watched it today.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, just in general, in the last few years, I have watched this movie more times than I care to admit, but 2020 hit and it was
you admit to watching Chopping Mall a lot, so that doesn't say much.
No, I know. Yeah, like I'm a big comfort movie person. I really am, and like I rewatch movies a lot, and this is just one of them that is always on my constant rotation. I love this movie so much.
I will certainly say this in terms of one of the reasons why I think this hits that nostalgia button a lot for people, and in general, whether you're my age or your guys' age, is that they definitely blur that line of reality versus fantasy in terms of incorporating Michael Jordan's storyline, and his real life in terms of him as a character in this, basically it, wrapping around the fact, they reference, like when you made reference about going to go get his gear, the North Carolina shorts,
Yep.
that's something he truly did, that the fact that he left he left basketball to go play baseball and come back and all that stuff, whatever, is that, they basically wrote this story as a part of an extension of what his real life story was.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh yeah, Michael Jordan totally went and did a thing with the Looney Tunes after he got done failing.
And that's what brought him back to.
That's
what brought him back.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think that, like you said, Sam, back during the 90s and the Michael Jordan era of the Chicago Bulls and everything like that, like if you had to at least known like 7 people that were Bulls fans, regardless of where they lived, because of the legacy that he built in Chicago. I think just is what helps solidify this movie in everybody's, watch list at some point in their lives.
Well, and one of the lines that gets me, because it's funny, but it also brings back that nostalgia, is the scene where Stan is like rattling off. He's like, all right, get in the car. We'll like lace up your Nikes, grab your Wheaties. We'll grab a Big Mac on the way to the ball. Like, he's listing off all these things. I'm like,
pull on your Hanes.
Oh my God. Yeah, Hanes. I'm like, oh my God, I remember all those ads. I remember all those commercials. Like, Michael Jordan was everywhere, man. He was like air in the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for a sports star, I don't know if I can think of another one that has, since Michael Jordan, been that ingrained in everything. Like you said, Sam, air that you breathe in the 90s. Michael Jordan's in that air. Like, he's not to throw out an Air Jordan pun. Jesus Christ, why did we do that? But but he was. I mean, he is, like I said, the most famous person in the world in the 90s. No one is bigger than Michael Jordan. I can't think of another sports star that is like that right now, or has
Honestly,
been since Jordan.
Another celebrity in the 90s period that was as big as Michael Jordan.
No, I don't. I honestly, I don't think there was. I mean, if you talk about basketball players who have since attempted to try to do this, the closest that we probably have right now, obviously, is LeBron, with coming out with the new Space Jam movie and whatnot, and getting into acting and everything like that. But I mean, even still, maybe we still haven't gotten to that point of his particular legacy. But I mean, you're talking about the fact that, it's, 30 years later, 35 years later, to the point when he started his career originally, and people are still buying those shoes because
I have a pair of Air Jordans myself.
Yeah. If there's one thing Nike, and if there's one thing Nike will never do is probably ever retire the Air Jordans, because, they are what they are, that he hasn't played basketball for how many years, but damn if Nike's not going to keep pumping out those tennis shoes,
My favorite pair of shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like you said, in terms of the endorsements that he did, everything like that during the 90s and whatnot, he just got himself in the right place. Because I mean, you look at like nowadays, and you do see the occasional endorsement. The only one I can think off the top of my head is Shaquille O'Neal trying to sell car insurance. But it just doesn't have that same, gravity of like what he did in the 90s.
Yeah.
Though I would watch the General and Shaquille O'Neal team up to fight a bunch of aliens over car insurance. I would watch that movie. I'm just throwing that out into the ether. If that happens, I'm there first weekend out. But
MJ and Yosemite Sam versus Shaquille O'Neal and the General.
And the General, who wins? We'll let the internet decide that. But that goes into my next thing that I want to talk about. with how crazy this concept already is of this movie even existing. Because at this point, Looney Tunes is obviously it's a classic cartoon, and people in the 90s, this isn't. I don't know. Was Looney Tunes big before this? Taking pre-Space Jam 90s, is the Looney Tunes pretty big?
Oh yeah.
I was about to say. I mean, because Baby Looney Tunes was a 90s thing, wasn't it?
Was
like
that 90s?
80s, early 90s? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, you're talking about something I grew up with, long before Space Jam was even a thing and whatnot. Because I want to even say, and I would have to double check my dates, whatever, but I don't know if you guys even remember like the throwback Looney Tunes thing, whatever, when everybody was trying to look like they're like the hip thug looking versions of the Looney Tunes. I want to say that might have shown up on or even before around Space Jam. But I mean, in terms of the classic cartoons, I mean, in terms of Mel Blanc and all that or whatever, we're talking literally even a couple of decades before.
Well, yeah, the Looney Tunes has been around since the 40s. But I'm wondering, because obviously the popularity really spiked when this movie came out.
Oh, for sure.
I'm just wondering who came up with the concept of let's pit the Looney Tunes with Michael Jordan in this movie.
While I'm watching this movie and just going through the opening credits and whatnot, I want to hear this pitch meeting of going, okay, here's the 3 top billed people for this movie: Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny, and Wayne Knight.
Yeah, Newman from Seinfeld.
Now, mind you, he just came off of Jurassic Park too.
Again,
that's true.
This is the most 90s movie ever, and by naming the top billed stars of this movie, you confirm it. This is the most 90s movie ever.
And doesn't that tell you that Looney Tunes at that point was obviously still a seller? If they don't top bill the voice actor who plays Bugs Bunny, they just credit Bugs Bunny.
Yes,
like it's Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. That's insane. Yeah.
And the only thing I could compare that to nowadays is if like SpongeBob had a live action counterpart with someone else. Like if like Keanu Reeves was actually in more than just a cameo in the latest SpongeBob, it'd be Keanu Reeves and SpongeBob SquarePants in Sponge on the Run. SpongeBob.
I would watch a Keanu Reeves movie with SpongeBob
where he plays himself.
Yes, after it was one of those ones where I had no intentions of watching SpongeBob, but it fell into my ether. That is what I'm doing right now, and I'm like, I should not like this movie as much as I do, and because at first I was like, why is Keanu in this? And I was like, Keanu's one of the best parts about that movie.
I think me and Sam were about to say the same thing. The SpongeBob movies all rule. Yeah. They're all great.
I haven't seen the new one yet, but the first 2 I ride hard for.
They're legit really good animated movies.
They are. They really are. Like the original SpongeBob SquarePants movie from 2004 is it's hilarious. It holds up. It's great.
So, Sam, in all your love of because I found a picture of this here, of all your love of the Looney Tunes way back in the day.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. I remember those.
I remember that.
Oh! All of the Looney Tunes throwbacks.
I remember people had those in I think my cousin had them hanging in his room, framed.
Oh, I remember in high school because it was one of those things that the whole Looney Tunes throwback thing was it transcended generations because your 40-year-old mother was wearing the shirt, but so was the 6-year-old kid. I remember you could not go through my high school in the 90s and not see 8 people down the hallway during, between classes with wearing those shirts.
Well, and I mean, you look at you go to the county fairs at that time, and the balloon dart, any game where you could win the framed pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It was Sammy Sosa, it was MJ, and it was the Looney Tunes. I'm surprised they didn't do a Space Jam sequel with Sammy Sosa, to be totally honest with you, where it was oh, we're doing baseball now. And even have Michael Jordan come in as a cameo. Why was I not a movie producer in the 90s? Damn it, that sounds incredible.
Oh, Sam,
because you were 4.
we've talked about this on the show before. All the other spinoffs that they did pitch that were potentially going to happen, including Race Jam with Jeff Gordon and Skate Jam with Tony Hawk, was a.
See, I would love all of those.
I don't know why they were not made. They still can. We're getting a new renaissance of Space Jam crossovers with LeBron James. Hopefully, let's continue to do that and get like the. I don't know any sports stars anymore.
No, but we'll have to see what kind of.
Let's get the track star that smoked weed and got kicked off the Olympic team, teaming up with the Looney Tunes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think we'll have.
We can call it Baked with Bugs.
We'll have to see what kind of cameos we get out of Legacy to see if Warner Brothers has anything up their sleeve, because it's the kind of thing where I would expect them to put some sort of Easter eggs in there and see how this does, to see if they're going to reignite that idea of, spin-offs.
Yeah. I eventually want to get back into the movie, but I'm going to ask this question. Who could be in a new Space Jam? Obviously, LeBron James is in this new one. Obviously, we don't host a sports podcast and know any names in sports, really. But if there was anyone to throw out there, I don't know who would kind of fit into that mold.
I would watch a snowboarding Looney Tunes movie with Shaun White.
Does he still snowboard though?
I don't know, but he's a flying tomato, man, and I love him. And I hope, oh God, Shaun White, if you listen to our podcast, get your agent to hook you up with Bugs, okay? Because I need this movie.
Oh, how about you? And I'm just throwing this out just because it's ridiculous and it would never happen. What not is be like Looney Tunes goes MMA starring McGregor.
Yeah, but you got to make R-rated.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
It's got to be the gritty MMA Looney Tunes. Oh God!
With cameos by Mayweather.
You couldn't afford Mayweather. I would throw out to do like Wrestle Jam and throw in John Cena meets the Looney Tunes. I think
John Cena would be great in a movie.
John Cena would be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
That and seeing that one would work. That would probably, for as much as we do love the original Space Jam and realize how kind of bad some of the acting is, especially for Michael and whatnot. At least Cena, that would work, and I think that would actually work very, very well.
Well, I don't know if you guys watched Trainwreck, but LeBron was actually really good in Trainwreck. Mm-hmm. He was funny. I'm excited to see what he does in the sequel. But yeah, Cena would be incredible. And can you imagine the Looney Tunes in a wrestling movie? The slapstick that would be able to be done in a wrestling movie?
In a Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I mean, God, the movie writes itself.
It does.
Somebody shows up in some Nacho Libre kind of looking.
Listen up, Vince McMahon. Make this happen. We know you're going to sell the company. Let's just sell it to Warner Brothers so we can get Wrestle Jam already.
You want me to wear Spanx? I don't know. Just oh God, I want this movie now.
Hit him with a stunner. Obviously, Daffy turns into Stone Cold Steve Austin during the movie.
Starts chugging soda pop instead of beer.
Man, Doc, you can't see me.
Again, this movie writes itself. Make it happen, Warner Brothers. I don't know how we're gonna.
This is Bill Murray's look for when he realizes that we're onto something here.
He's like, sign me up for that cameo. I'll be in it. He's the last competitor in the match to show up and save John Cena and crew against the evil wrestlers.
Also have to bring back Danny DeVito, but in live action. As the trash man. Oh God, we need to get a meeting with Warner Brothers.
We already
can't live without this movie.
We already pitched our Chopping Mall spinoff, Chopping Mail. Wrestle Jam is next.
At least If we couldn't get Vince to sign on, do you think we could get Cody to sign on? Just bring in the AEW.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, Chris Jericho as the lead. Yeah,
right. I was like, there's people over there that would work.
Charlie Eccles, if you are listening to this episode, please hook us up with someone related into the wrestling sphere so we can pitch this movie to them, and then we'll worry about the Warner Brothers part ourselves.
Yeah, I can draw all the Looney Tunes. We could make this super on the cheap, and it'll look like garbage, but oh man.
Let's jump into the Danny DeVito part then, since we just talked about Mr. DeVito. He is incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
Danny
He's
DeVito.
A lot taller.
Not much. But this is exactly what you think Danny DeVito would look like if he was an alien. This is Mr. Squatchhammer, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, it's like Swatchhammer or something.
Swatchhammer,
like
yeah. From Moron Mountain, which they need to make into an actual amusement park already.
I know. The thing is,
I'm really surprised that Six Flags did not do that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that really bugged me, and I wear my hat backwards because I was a kid in the 90s, okay? And that kid at the beginning, when you first get introduced to Moron Mountain, who literally gets launched off a ride. How do you get out of that and be like, this place sucks? I don't want to be here anymore, all right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, you ungrateful little snot. I would love to go on a ride at Moron Mountain, get flown halfway across the park. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
That's where I'm wondering where the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan will come into this and make this park even better, because I'm like, that park is pretty cool already. I mean, adding the Looney Tunes to anything is always great. But
I love
again,
that the ride is literally Danny DeVito's character with a cigar shooting at all the cars. Mm-hmm.
DeVito is just incredible in this movie, though. I think he's having a blast. Again, I would love to see him show up in this new Space Jam as Danny DeVito, the actor, shows up in the movie, not as a voice, but as an actual character in the movie. I would love that.
Oh yeah.
Not counting the little cameo by his penguin, because obviously that is probably not Danny DeVito. But I would love to see him in the movie somewhere.
I would like at least if you didn't get him in live action, because I agree. I think live action Danny DeVito would be amazing and whatnot, but to kind of maybe even somehow reprise his role from the original and in the new one, I think would be really fun too. I
wish I just hope the Monstars show up somewhere in this movie. I mean, it's hard to do a Space Jam sequel if you're not going to throw in at least some nods to the first one. You got to have some of these characters come back, right? That are not just in the main Looney Tunes. I mean, Lola Bunny.
Not just Lola Bunny.
Yeah, not just Lola Bunny. Now voiced by Zendaya, I guess.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell her in her few lines in the trailer either. I'm like, why even get a big name like that? It seems weird to me. You could have saved yourself probably a couple million. And just gotten an actual voice actor who might have done it better.
I don't. And that's my thing with this new one is there's so many unsures in this movie because of how much nostalgia I have for the original. I don't know if I hope to love this, but I'm very scared that I will hate this, and I don't know. I'm very worried about this new one.
Do you guys remember going back to childhood and where Looney Tunes, where all my love from Looney Tunes stem from? Do you guys remember the Back in Action with Brendan Fraser?
Never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
You've never seen it? Oh God. See, that one to me,
I was no longer a kid by that point.
That's true. It's not quite it doesn't hit the same as Space Jam does, but it is fun. And if Space Jam: A New Legacy is even that much fun, I'm gonna love it. You know what I mean? Because Back in Action was fun. It had a lot of good nods. There's a Psycho reference in it. It's insane. I'm like, what?
Well, I mean, this one has a Pulp Fiction reference in it. So
this one talks about sex and therapy.
Yeah, and this one has Heather Locklear in Back in Action has Heather Locklear in a skin tight leather corset and nothing else.
Why haven't I watched this movie?
Yeah, it's Daffy's eyes pop out and like roll around on his bill when she comes out. It's hilarious. It's like this is a kids movie, okay. But yeah, I watched it all the time.
To your point of why do we recast Lola Bunny and put a Zendaya in there? I think it literally is. It's probably one of those ones where there's probably whether it be a couple $1 million, like Sam said here, it's probably that kind of thing where Warner Brothers is like, we're gonna try to ride that Sony Spider-Man train and use a name that people know to help get more butts in the seat.
And that's the thing I'm worried about. Let Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes and LeBron James sell the movie. Zendaya doesn't. I don't think anyone's gonna be sold on Space Jam: A New Legacy because Zendaya's voicing Lola Bunny. Let the top billed 2 stars sell the movie like the original Space Jam did. Let it be Bugs Bunny teams up with LeBron James like he did with Michael Jordan.
And frankly, it's a little disrespectful to the other voice actors who have spent years working on these characters. You know what I mean? Like. So
you mean like
just
Matthew
because
Lillard?
she's the star,
Scoob,
yeah,
like Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, well, and they don't even bill like the guy who voices Bugs Bunny. I don't even know his name because they haven't billed it. Like I'm sure I could look it up on IMDb, but that's not the point. Like, why just because? Okay, I know why, but just because Zendaya is the bigger name, they're billing her and they're leaving all these other people that have done. They're doing voice work on this. They're leaving them out of the fold, and that just doesn't sit right with me, And I'm still gonna go and hopefully enjoy the movie because, let's be honest, this is maybe my most anticipated movie of the year. But there's just some of the marketing has rubbed me the wrong way. There's also
I feel
a
the same.
severe lack of Taz in all of the trailers so far, and that worries me.
Honestly, though, for even this movie, to jump back to the original one, there's a little lack of Taz in that one too.
But
he's
he has
not one of the
moments, at least.
He has fun moments, but I wish he was more ingrained with Bugs, Lola, and Daffy. I wish he was ingrained more with them.
Me too.
Heck, even Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote get more screen time than Taz in this.
Yeah,
but
he's got the awesome spit shine moment. Lemony fresh.
He does have that moment. You are correct. But it's there's so many fun things that you can do with him. I saw the new trailer for A New Legacy in front of Fast 9, and they have some fun stuff with Wile E. Coyote there too, and Taz, it looks like. So at least they're using the Looney Tunes to their fullest extent. And that is one thing about this movie too, that it does use all the Looney Tunes pretty well, and especially their characters and who they are. Like Yosemite Sam obviously gets to he just pulls out a gun during the basketball game. It's where are the rules in this intergalactic basketball game? Why does he get a gun and no one else does? Why cannot
Sam?
But why does Michael Jordan not carry a gun in this movie and use it? There's so many illogical plot holes.
They don't tell him until 10 seconds left that he could have.
That he could have, I guess. Wouldn't that have been a completely different movie? Michael just pulls out a gun at the end and shoots the Monstars and just walks up to the hoop and dunks it. That's the Pulp Fiction version of this movie.
Do we cut it up and watch it in the wrong order? We start with him shooting the Monstars, and then we go back to figure out how he got there.
Yeah. It'd probably make just as much sense as the actual movie does, in which I'm okay with. Because this movie is just freaking wild. Obviously, to have Michael Jordan already in this movie, I love that it does, and like we have said, have the baseball stuff as well, and showing that he did pretty much fail at that. But he's still the biggest star in the world while he's doing it, where everybody, the crowd is packed. They hire a publicist. We love Michael Signs. They have a publicist assigned to be just Michael's bitch boy whenever they need him to be, which is Wayne Knight in this movie. And then also even all his teammates, he strikes out, and they're like, "Yeah, that was Michael. You look great striking out. I look terrible when I strike out, but you look great, Mike."
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I was gonna say I enjoyed the catcher too. basically trying to tell him what the what the
Trying to
pitches
get
are
him a
going to
hit.
be. Don't I told you not to swing at that.
Don't swing. And then when he comes home to his kid's like, is everyone mad at you? And he goes, worse. Everyone was really, really nice about it.
But you know, I think that kind of plays into like what I said earlier about the fine line that when they wrote this, you know, treatment is that, you know, he knew that he failed at baseball. He knew that in every the cases and with all of that, and to basically be able to poke fun at himself because of that. Because, you know, some people would have gone and be like, okay, we're not going to talk about the baseball part of my life because I failed at it. No, he's like, no, I failed at it. Let's have fun with that. You know, where can we turn it to 11?
Self-deprecating the whole movie with him, you know, and I love that because like you said, most stars are going to take themselves way too seriously. They're not going to want to be the butt of every joke. And honestly, he is the butt of just about every joke in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love it. I love it.
Again, not to go back to A New Legacy and speculating on that. That's one thing I'm worried about is how often LeBron's going to be the butt of jokes.
He's not.
But you know what?
I know.
I love LeBron, but like the dude is. I don't see it being as self-deprecating as MJ in this.
No, I don't see it as much as that as Michael Jordan, but I do see him being able to try to play that line a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because he does like the comedy.
Train wreck. Yeah.
Right.
So I think it'll be funny. I just don't know how much of it will be like at his expense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, this movie does a great job of, like you said, Sam, of self-deprecating humor for Michael Jordan. And like so much, like Brian said, this humor is ingrained in what you already know about Michael Jordan. And I mean, some of my favorite running jokes from this movie is one with Bill Murray of constantly talking to Michael and Larry Bird about this disease going through the NBA and that they're going to be looking for new talent that they've never looked out there for before, and that will he have a chance in the NBA? He's ready for the call, and you know what? He doesn't wait for the call. He makes the call himself by showing up at the end of this movie to help Michael with that game-winning dunk.
I also like,
and I love how did you get here off the court afterward? Like he comes into no contact with anybody. He like doesn't even take a shot. But like when Mike is like, "Hey, maybe you do have what it takes to play in the NBA," he's like, "No, I'm retiring. I'm undefeated, untied," and he's literally limping off the court.
He's like, "Why don't you come hang out with us? Come meet the team." No, I gotta ice my knees. Gotta ice them down after every game.
It just, I don't know. It cracks me up. And then like his thing with Larry Bird at the very end. That could have been me, Larry.
Just the way he says, "Go Bulls!" Like at the end of the movie,
his voice breaks.
Like that reminds me of him and Ed Wood when they ask him if Jesus Christ is his Lord and Savior, and he's just like, "Sure." That line delivery that only Bill Murray can master. Like that's how I feel about the "Go Bulls" line at the end.
Yep. Oh,
Go Bulls!
100%. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, this movie is incredible. I love this movie. I mean, Wayne Knight is
being Wayne Knight in this movie.
I was just gonna say typical Wayne Knight in this movie, but it totally works because it's 1996, and you fully expect Wayne Knight to only play this type of character.
I will say, in terms of Wayne Knight 96 in Space Jam versus the asshole he deservedly dies to the face of a dinosaur in Jurassic Park, at least you want him to, in whatever version he is in Space Jam, at least try to succeed at his job.
Yeah.
In Jurassic Park, you just want him to die.
Like, no, he feels so bad for him when like Bill Murray and Larry Bird just leave him on the golf course. They're like, "What a pathetic guy!" Like, you're like, "Oh, don't be that mean to him." Like, he's trying.
He's trying to help Mike.
And then, Bill Murray taking his camera and throwing it away. Don't point that thing at me, man.
But hey, that is like, that seems like the kind of Bill Murray thing that like, okay, they're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna look like he's zapped down and whatever. And I just picture Bill Murray completely ad-libbing that whole thing. Like it happened. Look at him. And he immediately is like, it's a ray gun thing. It's gonna zap me too, and I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna chuck it.
Oh yeah,
like
I don't think Bill Murray didn't have a written line in this movie. They just said, "This is you're Bill Murray. You're friends with Michael. Go." And then just Bill Murray just riffed off that. And I mean, we talked about humor towards Michael Jordan. I mean, that's one thing about Warner Brothers that I do respect about the studio is that they're not afraid to poke fun of themselves a lot in a lot of their movies. Because I mean, the scene of Daffy just kissing his own ass with the Warner Brothers logo on it is
and it's one thing that I
so
never
funny
got as a kid. But it's amazing.
Right.
And I love the entrance into Looney Tune Land too. Of
you always have to go through the Warner Brothers logo.
You have to go through the logo to get into Looney Tunes Land.
Oh, like, for sure. I mean,
this has
at some point, the world has created itself, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, this is to them Warner Brothers is God.
Yeah, and it's like, they obviously know they're Warner Brothers cartoons, which I find very endearing. Like, that's how I felt like the Lego Batman movie had that same style of humor as well. Like, that's why I do respect Warner Brothers, because they're never afraid to make fun of each other or make fun of themselves. But yeah, I love this movie. Does it hold up? Sort of. But I don't know. What do you feel it sort of holds up?
No, he's still not there. Do I think? I mean, I think it holds up to a certain extent. But I mean, there are aspects of it, I think, that definitely date it. As much as I absolutely love the soundtrack, it definitely puts it in a specific time period. In terms of the, like the Looney Tunes going to the real world seem to be better animated than putting MJ in Looney Tunes world. Mm-hmm. Because there's one thing while I was watching it this morning is that, you can't see it here. Well, you can almost kind of see it here, but between Bill Murray and Michael Jordan, whatever, they have this really weird like haze to them, around them as they're trying to stitch them into the real world or into the Looney Tunes world, that sort of thing.
That's how I felt too. Like, because it is easier to just animate Bugs and Daffy into Michael Jordan's house than it is to put Michael and Bill Murray on a blue or green screen and then have the animation around them. It's much easier to do that. But
yeah,
I mean, I think it's still pretty good. It's good enough for what this movie needs to be, the animation in it.
I mean, when you're holding it up to classics like Roger Rabbit, obviously it's not going to hold up to that. I mean, you had one of the greatest directors with Robert Zemeckis doing that movie with probably a larger budget. And God, but this movie, I still think for what it does it well.
For me, the only animated part that doesn't work anymore, whereas everything else still has some charm to it, is when Michael gets turned into a basketball. Where I'm like, this is just really bad. Like, Wayne Knight getting blown up is hilarious. It's really funny. Michael getting turned into a basketball is like, was this made on like a preschooler's computer? Like, that's what it looks like. It looks that bad. Where everything else is good for a Hollywood movie of 1996.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Wayne Knight definitely looks, but I think it looks off-putting, but I think it's supposed to. Whereas like Jordan, like it doesn't even look like his face when he gets put into the basketball.
And I think that's sort of what the new movie is trying to get away from with A New Legacy, where they just animate LeBron James when he shows up into the Looney Tunes world, which, I mean,
that gag is so funny too.
I kind of would. Sam. I will let it slide. But like when Michael Jordan shows up for the first time here, it's like it's a little off-putting that with Jordan in the animated world. But I don't know. I still love this movie. I think it is just the seminal, probably 90s movie. Just encapsulates everything of that time. And I mean, this soundtrack still holds up. This is one of the greatest movie soundtracks ever, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah. For sure.
I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because I fully expect to get a lot of hate for saying that, but I do firmly believe this is one of the great movie soundtracks ever.
This is one of those soundtracks. Again, my age definitely, I see the soundtrack in a different light because of, like the Spin Doctors and Biz Markie covering, was it Kool and the Gang? Or Casey and Sunshine. Anyway, the cover song that they've done for this here, this is that really that huge height of R. Kelly, and
before he became problematic.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sam. We're lucky we didn't make any R. Kelly jokes in '96 because they may not have held up.
What do we got? Tektronic in here, Quad City DJs. The cover of what is it? I Believe I Can Fly. Like there's so many just great songs in this movie.
Yes.
This movie just has that soundtrack that everybody loves.
Theme and the highlight reel of Michael Jordan. It's epic. Right. It actually gives me chills every time I watch it. Going from the little kid in the driveway to like, it's MJ. Like, I just love it. I love
the part that's funny. You make it reference in regards to the opening and the highlight reel and whatnot. Other than the fact that we use the word Space Jam, that legit sounds like the beginning of like a hyped up documentary that we're about to watch of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Well, this movie
essentially that's what we got.
That's what this movie is. It's a hyped up documentary of Michael Jordan on how he went from a minor league baseball player back to the NBA. He needed a little help from Bugs Bunny and friends.
Well, I guess that, we got to make sure we contact Warner Bros. And tell them to update that IMDb page that it's no longer a comedy, it's a documentary.
I'll just get an IMDb Pro and change it myself.
Yeah. You compare it right up with The Last Dance, and it's just that great 1-2 double feature of Michael Jordan documentaries.
Sure.
You guys cannot use that as your answer to my double feature question.
Oh, don't worry. I've got a different answer for your double feature question. I actually have two answers for your double feature question.
We're almost there. We'll get to it in just a second. Let's get into our final thoughts. Space Jam 1996. From 1996, our thoughts back then to our thoughts now. We'll throw it off to Sam first then.
Well, obviously, you guys have listened to me gush for an hour and a half about this movie. I love it. I always have. It's one that I watched so many times as a kid. I mean, I practically have this movie memorized. And I still watch it to this day and just love it. I just don't think there's another movie that really encapsulates like my childhood in the 90s more than this movie. And that's even including The Phantom Menace, which was pretty big for me. But that also came in at the tail end of the 90s. So Phantom Menace is the best of the prequels, Brian. I see that face palm. Anyways,
I'm not going to say that, but
aside.
Phantom Menace is actually a really good movie. People need to quit shitting on it.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I love this movie. I don't know what else there is to say about it other than it's seminal for me, and I adore it. And I'm so glad you guys actually brought me on to talk about this one because, like,
hey,
I don't know. I know I'm the horror
choice,
guy,
Sam.
but like, oh my god, this movie, like, I love it. I love it so much. Oh, one more thing. The scene where the little aliens turn into the Monstars is absolutely terrifying, and I love it. And that shot where the green one comes up and the spines come out of his back and he turns around and just zooms in on the eyeball. That is one of the coolest shots in any movie. And I stand by that. One of the coolest shots of any movie. I dig it. Yeah.
Speaking
this movie's incredible.
Of eyeball scenes, I do got to give a good shout out to when Michael Jordan first shows up into the Looney Tunes land. You can see Bug's reflection in Michael's eye. I'm like, that's just a nice touch, and I like it. I love this movie. Like I said, I give this 5 stars. This is a masterpiece of cinema. This is right up there with the all-time greats of all time. You could throw this
the Godfather of children's cinema.
It is the Godfather of children's cinema. It is the Citizen Kane of basketball animated movies. It is that good. I'm here to tell you. And I mean, upon rewatch now, watching it as an adult, it still holds up from what I remember as a kid in 1996 watching this movie. It still holds up to those same things that I loved back then. This is one I'll continue to watch for my entire life and still love the same as I did when I was like 5 years old, watching this in my Michael Jordan jersey and playing, the Space Jam soundtrack afterwards.
And I will, in terms of your Space Jam soundtrack and whatnot, in terms of encapsulating all this here, what made me think about it is you commenting about the Monstars, Sam, is the fact that not very often does the opposing team or the villain get their own dedicated song on a soundtrack. And if this does not basically put a pin in what did the 90s hip hop and rap scene sound like, it's this song. Because I had to pull up, I had to remember who was all on it, because we have Be Real of Cypress Hill, Busta Rhymes, Coolio, LL Cool J, and Method Man on one song.
Yep.
And if that does not scream 90s hip hop and rap, you know,
100%.
And the fact that, the Monstars are like, we're going to get our own theme song, they got their Space Jam over here, but here's over here with our anthem too.
Yeah.
But I would, I definitely know, and I get that I have a different appreciation for this movie than you guys do because of how old was I when this came out, but I still do get that whole having fun, enjoying watching this movie. Maybe do I see faults in it differently than you do, but that's because, you physically grew up on this movie. I grew up on watching them meld the two worlds together, kind of thing. But I do think that these are two worlds that worked beautifully together. The synergy was definitely there, backed by an absolutely stellar soundtrack. Like, there really isn't a song on that soundtrack, whether it's in the movie or not, that just does not fit this movie, whatsoever. Like, it's just overall, for me, as someone who enjoys the music scene as much as he loves his movies and whatnot, this is just an overall good, snapshot of what the late 90s were for what this movie is.
All right, Sam, you ready to bring the thunder with your
out there?
I just felt it right now. It's rumbling through here. But
is that what that was?
What are you going to pair with?
Seeing lightning right out my window this whole time. So
what are you going to pair with Space Jam, Sam?
Okay, so can I do 2 double features?
You only can do 2.
I can wait. No, I mean, like, I have a double feature, and then I have another double feature.
Another double feature, because obviously you're going to do a double feature of Space Jam more than once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my first Space Jam double feature, I am going to pair the best basketball movie of all time with the other best basketball movie of all time. We're going to do Space Jam and Teen Wolf. Both have incredible basketball games at the end that get me all riled up emotionally. Both are funny. Both are maybe a little dated, but I love both of them equally. I love Teen Wolf. I love Space Jam. I'd mash them together. I'd watch them both in one night. In fact, maybe after we get off of this call, I might actually go watch Teen Wolf. But anyways,
I'm going to tell you this here real quick, Sam. I did not think about that at all whatsoever. But, however, again, as someone who I grew up on Teen Wolf way more than I did Space Jam, that is amazing. Like, I want that double feature. That is
We should
great.
do a room night sometime. For sure.
You don't have to invite me to that one.
I'll take it, Sam.
I have said my piece on that movie, but Sam, what's your other double feature?
My other double feature is just an obvious one, just because I do want to give a shout out to Looney Tunes Back in Action. I think both of those movies are a good animation hybrid blend. And between Space Jam and Looney Tunes Back in Action, I would have to pull out the old GameCube, fire up one of my favorite video games, Taz Most Wanted, and we play around before we started Looney Tunes Back in Action. Taz Most Wanted. Wow. One of my favorite games growing up. Loved it. Spent too many hours playing that thing. Yeah, those are my double features.
What's your double feature, Casey?
I'm going to go with another movie that falls into the Warner Brothers taking the piss out of itself canon. I'm going to pair Space Jam with the follow-up, Gremlins 2, is my my second in that double feature, because much like Looney Tunes, Gremlins 2 is honestly just a Looney Tunes movie, but with gremlins instead of Bugs Bunny and Taz and Wile E. Coyote. It has gremlins in it, and I love that there's so many references to other Warner Brothers movies.
They're deprecating there too. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, the first thing I immediately think of is the Gremlin bat.
Yeah, that leaves the Batman logo. I love that with the movie stopping and having Hulk Hogan being the one that saves the day to save our movie. Thank you, Hulk Hogan. We much appreciate you as an American and as a human being for doing so. But yeah, that's what I would pair Space Jam with is Gremlins 2.
That's awesome.
That is definitely one I'll take Sam's, but that's one I would never have even remotely thought of, to be honest. I was just going to go for the low hanging fruit, in that if we're going to stay in this realm and whatnot, is just basically pairing these two together in terms of Space Jam following up with a new legacy to the point.
Boo! Again, pick a different one.
I'm not gonna. Tough it. Suck it up.
You haven't even seen the new one. What if it sucks? Like what if it sucks though?
Then we can say, hey, you know what?
Then we just go with Like Mike, starring Lil Bow Wow.
Actually, that is
that's another one.
That's a great double feature.
Can I just pair it up with Blue Chips if we're just gonna go throw basketball movies in there?
My backup was Celtic Pride, so I don't have much else to say out there.
I think Space Jam would go really well with Hoosiers or The Way Back.
I'm over here like Blue Chips with Shaquille O'Neal, and you're like, well,
Shazam. Or Kazam.
That's Kazam.
No, he was in Shazam too in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know.
It's Kazam.
It's Kazam. Okay, yeah.
But in an alternate universe, Shazam, he was in a Shazam movie. I don't know what type of Shazam it was, but don't think it was the superhero.
It was in Steel.
Steel would be another fun one to pair with this. Yeah, let us know out there what you would pair Space Jam with. Are you going to go crazy with another wild movie like Looney Tunes, or are you going to stick with a basketball movie and have that with Space Jam? It's Like Mike, the movie you would pair with Mike.
This. or any other sports figure turned attempted actor and failed at it.
The Game Plan.
Sorry, Dwayne. Yeah, let us know your ultimate double feature with Space Jam. But let's jump into our plugs for the podcast and what we got coming up next week. Next week, we are going to continue our animation live action hybrid movie series, the longest title we have ever come up with. Next week, we do not have one guest, but we have two, because we're sticking in the 90s next week. 1992's Cool World with Brad Pitt. We do not have Brad Pitt on the podcast, but we have the next best thing. We have both Corey Jacobson and Local Lou on this together, because From what I have heard, we need all the help that we can get for Cool World. I have not seen it yet.
I was going to say,
you've never seen it. I'm very excited to watch it before next week because I have only heard bad things. That probably means I'm going to love it.
Well, I will tell you this because I've already said this to Casey. At which point will you ever see a movie where the camera work takes you down the throat of an animated gorilla through the intestines and out his ass?
That hooked me. I'm in.
I was going to say we're going to love this movie, obviously, and it has Brad Pitt in it. Okay,
and
sign me up.
And young Kim Basinger.
Sign us up.
That's enough for me.
So that's next week, Cool World, with local Lou and Corey Jacobson joining us for that one. Let's give a shout out to our patrons. And Lou and Corey are part of our Patreon group, where you can find us patreon.com/backlot605. We are going to have our June bonus episode coming out this week, where we talk about Fast 9, as we plugged at the top of the show. We're also going to have an episode on Space Jam: A New Legacy, and probably some other episodes as well on our Patreon. So be sure to sign up there. $1, $3, $5 tiers. Special thanks to our patrons, like I said, Lou, Corey, Darren, Logan, Blake, Andy, Derek, and our newest Patreon, John. Thank you all for helping us support the show. We hope you enjoy our episodes, and be on the lookout again for Fast 9, the dumbest movie I have ever seen.
The fastest of the furious.
Brian, where can they find us on the social media?
On the social media, they can check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and now most recently our Letterboxd HQ, all at Backlot 605 on Facebook. You can also join the conversation, the South Dakota Film Community Group, where we just like to talk about stuff that's going on. Derek's actually really good about sharing stuff about anniversaries and what came out this many years ago and whatnot, and just enjoy talking about what's going on.
Yeah, and if you listen to this, drop a post in there. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're watching recently, because we want to chat with you. We want to talk about it. Speaking of which, I'm just gonna start plugging this right now, because we want some more people to come out to our film community meetups that we have on the last Wednesday of every month down at Full Circle Book Co-op. This month, that is the 28th of July, 8 p.m. at Full Circle Book Co-op. Just come out, hang out. We're going to talk about movies. Don't really have a topic, I think, for this month. We basically talk about the latest movies that we watched and some of the things that we've seen in the theaters or at the State Theater as well. So come on down, join us there, Full Circle Book Co-op, last Wednesday of every month. But if you like this podcast, we got to let you know where you can subscribe, because you are probably already subscribed if you're listening to this, to be honest, but you can, if you haven't, on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, and on YouTube as well. And Sam, I'm going to throw it to you to give a plug for yourself and maybe a certain horror podcast that you are the former host of.
The former host?
Former host, Casey?
Current host. I'm sorry.
We didn't tell you that. I'm taking over your hosting duties, Sam. You watch more horror than I do.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I used to host. No, I co-host with Casey and Blake Ginnathan a podcast called Slash Lot. It's fantastic. If you like horror movies, you will love Slash Lot. We talk about all things spooky, creepy, gory, bloody, and we also talk about Scooby-Doo quite a bit. It's in our contract, just like it's in my contract to every appearance I make talk about Chopping Mall. Bing. Got the money for this one. That's a joke. I don't get paid. But
we also get a residual Scooby-Doo check for mentioning it on the main show as well.
Oh, sweet. #DoHeads.
#DoHeads.
So yeah, you can check that out. You can check me out on Twitter at Film Lens, and then on Instagram I am Slens Art. You can check out like my movie art and things that I am doing, and I also do art for every Backlot episode, so be on the lookout for that on the Backlot Insta. Boom.
Awesome. Yes. And Sam, I'm going to plug our next podcast that we have for Slash Lot.
Yes.
We're going to talk about all 3 Fear Street movies, because as you have found out because of this podcast, we are 90s kids, and Goosebumps and Fear Street, anything R.L. Stine was our jam as kids. So obviously very stoked to watch these. As soon as we are done on this show. I'm watching Fear Street 1994, which is the greatest year in all of humanity, if I do say so myself. But I'm very excited to watch it.
Hey, I'll just throw this out here. At least in terms of opening the film, very Scream and opening with 9 Inch Nails is a great way to start a film.
I will agree.
And it has 1994 in the title. Like I said, the greatest year of all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I wonder why you think that, Casey.
I don't know why, but it's a very important year to me. But let's wrap this thing up. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. There's no one else in the world besides Michael Jordan himself that I would rather have on a Space Jam podcast. Maybe like Bill Murray.
Yeah,
if you got Bill Murray on here, you better invite me still.
Sam, you've been bumped. By who? Bill Murray.
Damn. Watch Bill Murray just pop into our feed right now. Dun, 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 and then leaves. I would love that. I don't think Bill Murray has a computer to do that, though. But no, Sam, thank you again. Can't wait to do our Fear Street podcast. Yeah. Brian.
Yes.
Let's wrap this thing up because we go from Space Jam to a Cool World next week. So I'm very excited for people to check that out. So again, for Brian Mensing, I'm Casey Kelderman. We'll check y'all out next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.
Bye-bye.